Here is the beginning of our adventure. You and I, we're a story. We turn the time around, it's our time.
Episode 1. In Search of the First Ever Trans Person.
Hello, welcome to the first episode of our podcast, Adventures in Time and Gender. Originally, this was going to be a stage play, but we've had to adapt and change to our current circumstances. My name, however, remains the narrator, as it would have been in the stage version. I won't be narrating so much as travelling through time and interviewing people, but I like the name, so I'm keeping it. I'd like to introduce you to my sidekick. Oh, you don't like being called sidekick? My charming assistant? Just kidding. My co-host of Adventures in Time and Gender, Suitcase.
Thank you, my young friend, and greetings, listeners. Welcome to our podcast, our cast of pod.
Maybe you could say something about yourself?
I am 55 by 35 by 25 centimetres. I was made of leather nearly 100 years ago, and although I am in good condition, I show the signs of wear and tear you'd expect to see from long years of service. Slightly worn, perhaps, around my handle. A few knocks here and there, but I was and am still a quality item of luggage.
Okay, that's great. Now, how about something so listeners know you're able to transport people through time and space?
Okay, I am able to transport people through time and space.
Excellent. Well, that's clear then. I mean, your own story, Suitcase, is one people might like to hear.
Of course. Well, I was one of 4, considered the baby of the bunch due to my size. The bigger ones used to joke about what I'd be able to carry. Socks and pants, they said, but I ended up carrying the most precious thing of all. His death mask.
What's a death mask?
It's a plaster cast taken of a person's face when they die.
Huh. Why?
So you can remember them in 3 dimensions, I suppose. Anyway, his death mask was kept safe by his lover and I for many years.
Sorry, whose death mask was it?
The great sexologist Magnus Hirschfeld. No doubt you remember learning about him at school.
No, I haven't heard of him.
What? What are they teaching you about queer history in school these days?
Not a lot, Suitcase, which is why I jumped at the chance to find out more. In Adventures in Time and Gender, Suitcase and I would like to take you on a journey through time, meeting trans people from history and some of the doctors and experts who have shaped the way that Western society thinks about us.
All right then, where to first?
I don't know. All of time to choose from. We could go anywhere. We could witness the dawn of time.
Yeah, like the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm afraid I can't do that one. Give me another, though. Anything else. Wherever you like.
Okay. Right. I know it's a bit off project, but I was wondering, could I say my nan again?
Oh, sorry. No, that's not within my... Do you understand? I can't just really,
It's cool. Okay. What about if we were to go somewhere like... what about India? We could look at how gender and sexuality were in pre-colonial times. What do you think?
Now, yes, India. All right. Anywhere else?
Suitcase. Maybe it would be easier if you could tell me where we can go.
Okay, well, I don't want to get too technical, but I can only travel along a particular wormhole, and I was sort of hoping that where you wanted to go would happen to coincide with where I can take you.
So, what is this particular wormhole of yours?
Well, it centres on Magnus Hirschfeld, of course.
Okay.
But obviously it connects to other sexologists in the West during the late 19th century and early 20th century. You don't look exactly thrilled, narrator.
It just sounds really dusty. Lots of dead white men, you know.
Okay, well, there's more. You see, these sexologists, they were trying to understand gender and sexuality scientifically, but also look to the past to make sense of their own society. Hence, we have a wormhole that leads us back to ancient Greek mythology. Yeah, see? Piquing your interest now, eh, narrator?
Oh, carry on selling it to me, Suitcase.
Okay, so this is the important bit. The reason I think this wormhole could be of interest to a young gendery person living in the UK today, such as yourself. The wormhole goes backwards to explore history, but also forwards from Hirschfeld. There's a direct line through time connecting the ideas formulated by the sexologists to the way trans people seeking medical interventions are treated today. So, say you were going through a gender identity clinic in 2020. You are part of a system of medicalization and diagnosis with its origins in the late 19th century. And here's the thing. I wonder if you understand why the system works in the way it does, where the thinking came from, then maybe you can critique it. I can take you on a trip to explore medicine, identity, and authority. Now, you're right to point out that my wormhole is quite narrow and, as you say, a bit dusty.
You don't want a dusty wormhole, Suitcase.
All right, look, can I clear something up right now? I am going to be talking about wormholes, specifically the one I refer to as my wormhole, the one I travel along through time and space. Are you going to giggle every time?
Probably. Hey, you know you said the sexologists looked back into the past?
Yes.
Well, that could be a really good place to start. I mean, did they find trans people in the past? It'd be great if we could find really ancient trans people, you know, so we can prove that trans people have always existed.
Right. Well, we don't have a lot to go on. Some scraps of parchment and bits of broken pottery that offer some clues that trans people existed in ancient times, but okay.
Okay.
Let's go!
Suitcase! Quick! Get us out of here!
Don't panic. I don't think we're visible.
Don't think, Suitcase! I'm going to need more reassurance than that.
Look, they're all busy battling each other. Nobody's even glanced at us.
That big one with the big axe seems to be glancing at us.
Oh, that's interesting.
And now sort of running towards us, swinging the big axe and growling.
Fascinating. I didn't expect that to happen.
Okay, so maybe get us out of here.
Well, but then we'll never know if they can actually see us or not.
Suitcase, now. Whoa, she's magnificent. She saved our lives.
Or maybe she'll kill us next.
What?
She can definitely see us, though, so that clears that up.
I can see you.
Thank you so much for saving our lives.
I wanted to kill him anyway.
Oh, excellent. A win-win situation.
What are those things on your face?
Glasses to help me see.
And those things on your feet?
Oh, they're trainers. It's a type of shoe.
And I'm just an ordinary old talking, time-travelling suitcase, in case you were wondering.
I wasn't. This is a wormhole junction. Crawling with time tourists some days. Trainers, you say? Looks comfortable.
Yeah, they are. So, when are we? I mean, what year is it?
It's now. But you'd probably call it the olden days, or ancient times, or prehistoric. Time travellers usually come here looking for the first this or the oldest that.
Imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it cracks me up. Like there wasn't a thing and then suddenly, boom, there it was. And we're all interested because it's the first.
Yeah, I know, right?
So, what are you in your, talking suitcase looking for?
Oh, we're
We're hoping to find the very first ever trans person.
sounds a bit silly now, though.
Trans? What's that?
Well, someone a bit like me. Someone who's living as a different gender to the one they were assigned at birth.
Well, I've never called myself a trans person.
Are you a bit like me, though?
Yes, but trans is not a word I call myself. Some people call me High Priestess. My enemies call me who cares what they say? My girlfriend calls me Honey because I'm very sweet. I just call myself a warrior.
But as well as those things, you're also what we would call a trans person.
In your time, maybe. Not now, though. I mean, is it right to use words about someone they wouldn't use about themselves? Can you take an identity and map it onto someone from another time, another culture?
But the trouble is, though, if we don't use words like trans, then everyone assumes that trans people just didn't exist in ancient times.
Let me ask you something. What do you think of when you think of a prehistoric person, huh? See what I mean? We've had people come here from the future saying we're looking for the caveman. I mean, we had to kill him for being sexist, if nothing else. But it's a lack of imagination, I think, that someone would assume that your trans people didn't exist.
You're right about the lack of imagination. People from our time tend to imagine everybody from long ago as being straight, too.
Straight? I mean, straight? Why would they think that? Oh, stop, that tickled me. I'm just remembering some of the parties I've been to. Oh, the training camps.
I suppose it's the people who write the history books.
Ah, yes. I've heard about history books from other time travellers. Seems to me they tell you more about your own time than the times they're supposed to be about. Okay, let me guess. You wanted to meet an olden day trans person to prove to the people in your time that people like you have always existed.
Yes.
Well, that pisses me off. Not you.
Sorry.
Oh, no, don't look so scared. I mean, it pisses me off that you feel you have to prove something so obvious. Of course what you call trans people have always existed. I know that and you know that. We're nothing new. People are people. Who's demanding this proof and why, huh? In my opinion, that's what you need to be asking. Why have people chosen to erase us? My advice would be to go on your journey with less thought about the end. You already know the end because you already know the answer. We've always existed. Okay, I've got some warrior business to get back to.
Thanks for your help. I really appreciate it. I don't want to know what warrior business is. Wow. She's given me some thinking to do, but maybe we should take our opportunity to get out of here, Suitcase. Where to next?
Let's meet the stars of a story of magical transformation from female to male, straight out of Greek mythology.
Oh, okay. Ancient Greece. Statues, vases, chariots, temples.
The birthplace of modern Western democracy.
And the Olympics.
Pythagoras' theorem.
Greek gods. Oh, and all the myths. Medusa, the Cyclops, the Minotaur, the Trojan horse. Let's go!
Yeah, actually, they insisted on coming to us instead. Apparently, they like it here.
IKEA?
They insisted.
Have you met other people from the past in IKEA?
All the time. Hey, half the people in here are time travellers. They're easy to spot, actually. They can't take anything back with them, so they spend the whole time filling a yellow bag with tea lights and then putting them back all wistfully. Oh, look, there they are, in the apartment in a small space display. This is Iphis and Iphis's mum.
Hello.
Well, wow, why isn't this wonderful? I mean, it's so lovely and got everything you need in such a small little space. A table that rolls up against the wall? Oh, so neat and tidy. I love it. I can imagine my Iphis and his wife living somewhere just like this, actually. Everything a young couple just starting out needs, isn't it?
Mum, you are so embarrassing. Hey up, I'm Iphis. Lovely to meet you. This is my mum.
Hello, love.
You aren't how I imagined people from ancient Greece to be.
Well, I do try to keep up with the times now, don't I?
But I mean, your accent sounds sort of, southern.
Honey, you are in an IKEA showroom with a talking suitcase. This isn't some documentary, if you know what I mean.
Your mum's really...
My mum's really supportive of me. She always has been.
Oh, that's amazing. How about your dad?
Oh, well, do you want to know what he said? He said, can you imagine this? He said, while I was pregnant, I might add, he said he would kill our child if it turned out to be a girl.
Oh, my God. Why would he say that?
I got one word for you. Money. We couldn't afford to have a girl. It was an expensive business back then. the thing is, it wasn't that unusual for a man to say what he'd done either. Terrible, though, really to think about, isn't it? So I said to him, you lay a finger on our child and I'll kill you. I would have done it too, and he knew it.
So then what happened?
Well, as soon as I could talk, I was like, I'm a boy. So Mum just thought, okay, I've got a son. It was all really simple until I grew up, fell in love with a girl and was to be married. Ovid, you know, the famous poet from the Roman times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote an account of my story. He writes this bit with me saying, what will become of me? Possessed by a love unheard of. Love so monstrous, so unique. Whereas I remember it more like, oh shit, fuck the wedding night, she's going to find out.
And I said, Iphis, calm down, love. You gotta let me think. I need some silence. So we went to the Isis goddess's temple, and I got down on both my knees, and I said, Isis, can you hear me, sis? Show us your pity, please. Save us with your power.
And then?
The ground shook. I mean, like, really, really shook, like an earthquake.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and the noise. Oh, the noise was too much. You remember the noise, Iphis? Mm-hmm. It was like the loudest drum you can imagine, only inside of your head. And then afterwards I said, what did I say, Iphis? What was it?
You always forget that. You said it was like we were the drum.
Oh, that's right. I said that we were the drum. And then all of a sudden, my Iphis stands up right in the middle of it and just...
Ovid describes it beautifully here, actually. How, with each step, she who had been a girl, a moment past, was now a boy.
And what was that like?
It was amazing. I mean, it was a bit orcs on those first few steps, you know what I mean? Voice breaking, greasy skin.
Yeah, like a second puberty.
Yeah, exactly. But then I remember on step 4 or 5 feeling really at home in my body for the first time. You know, my shoulders were looking good. My body had sort of redistributed. I had the start of a beard.
Oh, he was so handsome.
Oh, God.
Do you ever think? I mean, see that thing you said about love so monstrous? I mean, most of us don't think like that now. Say you're in a time when it was okay to be gay. Do you know what I'm getting at? I mean, your dad was going to kill you if you'd been a girl, so it was hardly a level playing field. It was trans or death, and there was no other option of being with the woman you loved than by being a man.
Right, yeah, I see what you're getting at, but first of all, I didn't say love so monstrous. That was Ovid writing his poem centuries later in Rome. He put that spin on it. Second of all, it's pointless to speculate. I lived in the times I lived in, not in your times. Thousands of years from a flat-pack furniture shop in the 21st century.
It is quite labyrinthine in here. Well, actually, I once spent a fun day in here with Inanna, the Mesopotamian goddess of love, beauty, sex, violence, and justice. She may have the power to turn a man into a woman and a woman into a man, but that's not much use when you can't find your way out of soft furnishings.
Sorry, Iphis. I hope it didn't sound like I was trying to catch you out or anything. I know your story's super complicated.
No, it's cool. It's good to talk about this stuff. You know, I think when your story gets told and retold so many times, it becomes quite hard to say, no, this is actually what happened. Do you know what I mean? Everyone has a take on it. Mum keeps a scrapbook of it all, don't you, Mum?
Oh, yes. Looky here, I'll show you some of my favorite cuttings. So, here, you'll see they're all from way past our lifetimes, actually. Weren't they, Iphis? Oh, goodness, I'm just so proud of my famous son. So here we have Ovids that we just mentioned, and then you'll see writers from the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. They picked up that story and they just ran with it. Oh, would you look at these manuscripts? Aren't they beautiful?
Oh, yeah.
And look at this. Look. You may know this one, actually. It's from your time. Allie Smith and her beautiful novel, Boy Meets Girl. Yeah. And, you know, my Iphis still gets spoken about all the time in lessons and lectures. Oh, I'm just beaming. Is your mum supportive of you?
Mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, she is now.
Oh, good.
She worried a bit about how other members of the family would react, I think. That they'd think it was her fault somehow, you know?
Well, I know all about that now, don't I?
And there's this whole thing nowadays about how if you support a young person who's even thinking about their gender, then you're accused of actually somehow making them trans.
Oh, rubbish. Nothing changes, does it? Everyone's got something to say. Who was that one that went off to war? If it's who was it? Come on.
It was, Diophantus.
Yeah, that's it. Diophantus.
It was after my time, Mum, but remember we read that Pliny saw someone turning into a man on his wedding day?
Ah, yeah. Just transformed just like that. Reminded me of you, that did. And, of course, the galley. You've heard of them, right?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Oh, well, you should. They're wonderful. Underwent surgery and then lived the rest of their lives as women, serving the great mother goddess.
Wow.
You know, it's like I say to my Ifis, I always say, you're not the first, and you certainly won't be the last. There's nothing new under the sun.
Mum, can we just please get a hot dog now?
Like I said, nothing changes, does it? Right then, we best be off. Take care of yourselves. So lovely to meet
Bye-bye.
you. Nice to see you, Suitcase. Kiss,
Thank
kiss.
you. Thank you, Bert. Safe travels.
Thank you. I really liked them. What a lovely mum.
Guess I thought you'd get on. Did you catch the other stories they referred to just then? Tales of magical transformations.
Yeah, I did. But I do wonder, could these stories be about intersex people? I mean, I don't want to steal another group's stories. You know what I mean?
I do. What we can say is that although these stories sound like myths to us, for Greek and Roman historians and scientists, these stories were facts. And that, I think, offers a glimpse at a very fluid understanding of both sex and gender. To the Romans, it was entirely natural that people should change sex because people had seen it happen. The gods move in mysterious ways, as they say.
And the stories were told and retold because people were fascinated, like people still are today. And some storytellers put their own spin on it, but each time a story like that gets told, it becomes a possibility, a thing that can actually happen.
Yes, but also, as our horse-riding friend explained, there are and have been many ways to understand gender and identity in different times, places and cultures around the world.
Right. I mean, those stories can't have only come from Greece or Rome, could they?
No! I mean, there are stories with trans and queer characters from every part of the world.
Exactly. I've been thinking about what the Warrior said about history books. You know, we take history books as fact, and yet, if I think about what I learnt at school, you know, I wasn't taught about how evil the British Empire was.
Exactly.
What I mean is, we take some stories as how it was, and some stories we call myths and treat them as if they're a bit silly.
Yes, and of course we can learn so much about a culture by looking at the stories it tells itself. And that's why Magnus Hirschfeld's collection of artifacts was so wonderful. Everyone came to look. Christopher Isherwood, the writer, they all came to the Institute of Sexology. Anyone who was in town. Hey, let's go and visit someone a bit closer to your time. Someone of whom many a story has been told. My old friend, 18th century gender blender, Charles Genevieve Louis Auguste André Timothée de Aon de Beaumont, aka the Chevalier de Aon.
Let me guess. They want to meet us in a Croydon Weatherspoons.
No, we'll go to them. And besides, her sword tends to get her in trouble in the 21st century.
Suitcase. I have a feeling we're not in IKEA anymore.
Hello, darlings. Welcome to 1785, London.
Chevalier here was a French diplomat, soldier, Freemason, and a spy.
Wow. Suitcase said there were loads of stories about you.
Yes, there have been one or two.
They say you infiltrated the court of the Empress Elizabeth of Russia.
If they say it, it must be true. I was told we need someone for a really dangerous job, and I thought, oh no. And then they said, It will mean someone going undercover as a woman for years. And I said, all right, go on then.
What was that like?
Well, the Empress didn't want anyone prettier than her in the court, so I thought I was quite safe there. Ahem.
Oh, sorry. Don't be silly, Chevalier. You're gorgeous.
Thank you, Suitcase. Right on cue. One of my favorite stories. Empress Elizabeth got something stuck in her fringe. Her ladies-in-waiting were fussing around her with combs and brushes, and then Elizabeth shooed them away, grabbed a huge pair of scissors, and cut the front of her hair off. Just a half-inch tuft left. Then she passed around the scissors, and each one of them had to snip her own hair off, so just a tuft was left in the front. And then word got around to the court, this is the latest fashion, and everybody was doing it. I thought it was hilarious.
Wow. It sounds like she made a big impression on you.
She totally did. The main thing for me was the realization that we were all learning. I mean, all of us in the court were learning how to be in the court in this bunker situation. It struck me one day, all of us are undercover. Does that make any sense? I'm pretending to be a woman courtier as much as the woman next to me is pretending to be a woman courtier.
You mean gender is performative?
Gender is performative. Yes. Yes, that makes sense to me. That's what I've always seen around me. I remember being taught how to be a man. If this is something that is natural, why should I be taught it? So yes, I suppose we are all playing a part, aren't we?
And then you came back to London and there was a lot of confusion. Didn't you tell everyone that you were a woman dressed as a man?
I didn't tell anyone that. They decided that for themselves. I came back, thought I better put my old army uniform back on again and get back to life as it used to be. But there was something about me, apparently. Maybe I become so good at playing the part of a woman that it had become part of me. People said I was feminine no matter what I did. They said I moved or spoke in a certain way. So when I was wearing my uniform and fencing, they decided I must be a woman pretending to be a man. And I suppose, thinking about it, they were right in a way. But the thing is, I am just being myself. Someone who loves swords and pretty dresses. And people will think what they think. I'm interested in what changes. If I say I am a woman, what changes? How am I treated differently? What opportunities do I now not have?
Wasn't there some sort of bet on your true sex started up?
Yes, what a cheek. Can you believe it? They even asked me to join in. Wanted me to have a medical examination. As if I would. Anyway, it all got abandoned in the end because there was no way they could prove it either way.
Did you enjoy the attention? Or would you rather have just been left alone?
Of course, I dream about a little house in the country and a quiet life. But I feel like I'm on a mission with this. It's like when you see a magic lantern show. Some people get swept away with the images, and others, like me, are straight away wondering how it works. It seems to me like most people have let themselves get swept away with what men and women are and just accept it without question. I feel like I've looked behind the curtain, seen how the mechanics works, and I want to tell people.
Yes, Chevalier, that's how I feel. We still have all these stereotypes, ways of behaving, expectations and assumptions. And did you know that in the 21st century, there are things called gender reveal parties? So before a baby is even born, they cut a cake, and if it's got blue sweets inside, it's an explosion or a wildfire.
Wait, what? You've lost me, I'm afraid.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that 250 years from now, most people are still staring at the Magic Lantern show. I mean, there are some people, genderqueers, gender fluid folks, non-binary, gender questioning people.
Oh, hold on. You've lost me again. Who are these people?
Those are words people might use to describe themselves and their identities.
Ah, see, that's why it's so much easier just to be yourself. My identity is the Chevalier.
Yes, but it's also a way of finding each other as well, using those words. I mean, I didn't know about you before now, and I really wish I had done.
Suitcase, you said I would be known for centuries.
You will be, don't worry.
I'll take your word for it. And I won't bother asking if you can tell me anything about what happens next, because I know you can't.
I can't. Wait and see what happens. Live your life, Chevalier.
Lovely to meet you, Chevalier.
You too, narrator. Look after that suitcase. She is very special.
She? I didn't know you were a she, Suitcase.
Well, I met Chevalier in France first, and there I was known as La Valise, which is feminine.
And is that how you identify?
No, I identify as an item of luggage, albeit quite a special one.
So do you not have a gender at all then?
Do you have a handle? Reinforced corners? Do try and remember I'm not human.
Yeah, but it's hard because you speak like a human.
No, you speak like a suitcase.
Fine, whatever. Where to next then?
20th century now. I'd like you to meet Briar.
Oh. Ow. Where are we? Gosh, it's pitch black. Feels like velvet. Oh, it's a fold-down seat. A cinema!
Welcome! I love the movies. I thought this would be a good way of telling you about my life. Okay, we open in 1894 with a man with a big moustache. My father. He was a shipping tycoon. That's the richest man in England you can see waving at the camera. Now look, it's my mother. And she's holding me, a baby girl. She hates being filmed. Look, she's showing me to the camera though, all proud. The man says he won't marry her until she has a son, which breaks her heart. Here we are, 15 years later, now a family of 4. My baby brother was born and he'd inherit pretty much everything. Look how happy my father is now. The rest of the reel is all about my brother, so I'll just... There's a photograph of me, though, which sums up my childhood. Here we are. Look, it's me, writing and dreaming.
What were you writing about?
I used to write endless stories of a boy hero. Obviously thinking about myself, having adventures, getting into scrapes. Hold on a second, though. I've got another bit of film to show you. The love of my life. Hilda Doolittle, a.k.a. HD.
And you're filming this?
Yes.
Oh, you can tell. Look how she's looking through the lens at you.
Yeah, she's really something. She got me, you know, straight away.
Oh, it's lovely when that happens with someone.
HD was a famous modernist poet from America. Bisexual, a real free thinker. And there was I, and, you know, well, I wouldn't have swapped my life for my brother's for anything after HD came into it. She was also a famous patient of one Professor Sigmund Freud.
Wow.
They spoke about me. She showed Papa, that was our name for Freud, she showed Papa a photograph of me and said something about how I was a woman, but also a boy. And he said, "But I think she is only boy." And HD replied, "I think that is rather wonderful." Oh, I love that story because, well, it had always been in my head and in my stories, and now one of the greatest thinkers of our time was saying, yes, yes, this is a boy.
Did it feel like you weren't making it up?
Ah, yes, absolutely. I felt legitimised. It gave me such confidence too. Any time I felt any doubt in myself, I'd think, well, Papa said I'm a boy.
The boy hero.
I wasn't very heroic.
You saved people from the Nazis, Briar. That's pretty heroic.
That's called simply being in the right time, at the right place, and having an awful lot of money. I didn't inherit most of my father's wealth, but I was still incredibly rich. To have not used it to help people in desperate need would have been criminal.
Would it be fair to say, do you think, that if you are very rich, or from aristocracy like the Chevalier who we just met, that you get more freedom to be who you want to be? In terms of gender, I mean. I'm thinking of Vita Sackville West basically coming out as non-binary in their memoir, which is great, but you just don't hear those stories about ordinary people.
I think certain people's stories get told, don't they? Of course, class comes into it, but there are other factors too. If you're white, for instance, I was definitely privileged. I knew that. Not in terms of gender or sexuality, but I tried to use the advantages that I had to change society for the better where I could, through art, through writing and avant-garde film.
That's really cool, Briar. Something else I'm wondering about is words. So far, nobody we've visited has embraced our modern terminology. But what about you? In our time, we use words like trans. Would that be a word that was of interest to you?
No, I wouldn't like that. Even if I was around in your time, I'd just be a boy, I think. I wouldn't want to be a trans.
Well, it would be a trans boy.
No, only boy, as Papa said.
We say daddy nowadays, Briar?
Maybe so.
Suitcase. I honestly thought that people would jump at the chance of having a word for it, for who they are. I certainly did when I discovered the word non-binary. It was like a lifeline to me. Suddenly, I could search for that word and find like-minded people. The first person we interviewed, when we were nearly axed to death, thanks to Suitcase, she said you can't map ideas from one time or place onto people from another time and place.
I think that's true. But I can also see, when you said about the lifeline, how actually it can be really, well, life-saving. To be able to find people like yourself, I mean, whether in your own time or through history.
It's a dilemma, isn't it? I just wanted to let people know that trans people have always existed. Why can't it just be simple?
I've observed humans long enough that I can tell you unequivocally that you are not simple creatures. People and labels are like cats and boxes. Put a box on the floor and your cat might well get in of their own accord, but try and put a cat in a box and you might get scratched.
Oh, that's an excellent analogy.
Thank you, but I can't take the credit. I know a bit about boxes, but nothing about cats. Certainly, I've never tried to put either into the other one, not having any hands to do so. A young person in a trans youth group said it, so thanks to them. Anyway, I think we're onto something here. We've met people who live their lives in ways that in our time might lead them to call themselves trans. The thing that has changed is not how people live their lives, but the way people talk about themselves.
Yes! So we need to find out when the words we use came about. If all the historical figures we've spoken to would say they were just being themselves, when did we start giving people labels?
And also the other thing our friend on the horse said, that we should look at why gender non-conforming people are erased from history. Maybe that's also to do with labels and words.
So, where will your adventures go next?
I think we'll start with Ulrichs, and then maybe Magnus Hirschfeld.
Briar, thank you so much for speaking with us. It's been wonderful to meet you.
My absolute pleasure.
I'd also like to say thank you to the Chevalier, Iphis and his mum, and to our rescuer on horseback for speaking with us. Tune in to the next episode of Adventures in Time and Gender to meet some of the sexologists, the people who have shaped the way Western society views us and the way we view ourselves. Maybe Magnus Hirschfeld, says Suitcase, casually.
Oh, shush.
We turn time around, it's our time.
Adventures in Time and Gender was developed with trans and non-binary young people, written by Jason Barker with additional dialogue by the cast and crew, directed by Krishna Istha, sound by Joe Jackson, music and lyrics by The Mollusk Dimension. In episode 1 of Adventures in Time and Gender, Sam Creera was the narrator, Emma Franklin was the Suitcase, Travis Alabanza was the rider, Joe Jackson was Iphis, Shay Kono was Iphis's mum, Kim Tatum was the Chevalier, Tom of Tottenham was Briar. The Foley mixer was Sophia Hardman. The Foley artist was Ollie Ferris. The re-recording mixer was Candela Palencia. Backing vocals and harmony by Wild. This podcast is funded by the Wellcome Trust and was made in collaboration with the Rethinking Sexology team at the University of Exeter and Gendered Intelligence. For further adventures and more wormholes to explore, please visit adventuresintimeandgender.org or join the conversation on #TransThroughTime.